a system and a game created by the architects, engineers of the philosophy of white supremacy that seeks to oppress and control melanated people, primarily Africans throughout the diaspora, directly African Americans, African descendants in America, and African descendants in Europe, and wherever you'll find them, and also other melanated people, albeit Mexican, Latino, Cuban, whatever. All of them are African descendants, but whatever country. So it's a system and a game that controls every facet of those individuals' lives. And it is not mere prejudice. And I want to make sure that we understand that. It is not mere prejudice. Prejudice is a part of it, but it is not merely prejudice. It is something that requires power. It is something that requires control of a variety of systems. And since they are the intellectual property holders of the construct, many people will say no one else can be, especially Black folks, can be racist. And at the end of the day, as we get into the discussion about Kamala Harris tonight, you'll see in the country of India, they also practice racism, and it's kind of strange because they are African descendants practicing racism against darker melanated people, and they have a strong caste system. So it is possible to have a system of racism against people who look very similar, but all of that comes from the entire construct of white supremacy, and people have adopted these concepts throughout the world.
Excellent segue for the next question, which is, what is white supremacy?
White supremacy is a philosophy. It is the governing philosophy of the architects and engineers of European descendants that focuses on elevating them falsely, fictitiously, as the greatest entities on the planet. It is a philosophy that is never going to leave their fabric because it's a part of their genetic and epigenetic makeup. So to eliminate white supremacy, they would have to admit something, the architects and engineers of the system, they would have to admit something that they're not going to admit, and that is that they are genetically inferior and that they are grafted recessive byproducts of African people. And so it's their governing philosophy for everything that they do. And it is embedded in every institution in this country and out here.
Okay, cool. And I think the last definition I have is, what is capitalism?
Capitalism is an economic and political system that governs every facet of our existence in this country, especially when it gets down to commerce. But it is the system by which goods, services are sold in the private and the public sector, meaning private business, public municipalities at the local, state, and federal level. But inside of the system, there is another system that our people created, which is called free enterprise. So you have a free enterprise system, meaning Tamani has an idea to create a piece of furniture. He creates a piece of furniture and he now attaches some type of value onto that piece of furniture. And people, he goes to try to sell the furniture. That's free enterprise. You should not, nobody should regulate your ability to be able to do that. Our people came up with that. Capitalism brings in free white supremacy and now says, Mr. Zawalski also makes furniture and Tamani is now my competitor, but I don't want Tamani to be able to get as much business as me. So I'm going to create policies to try to stop Brother Tamani from being able to sell to feed his family. And therein lies what capitalism is. It uses free enterprise in its philosophy of white supremacy in order to stem the tide of competition. Although it says they encourage competition, they actually eliminate competition. And that's what you see right now with so many conglomerate, major multinational corporations gobbling up everything. And when that happens, now you have major issues.
So simplistically speaking, capitalistic white supremacy is would be those in power using their belief in their own superiority, which is simply a philosophy that they have, to cheat to make money.
And to keep people in consumer oppression.
Consumer oppression.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because if you are constantly the consumer and you're never the investor or the owner, you will always be oppressed because you're dependent on others to produce the goods and services that you consume.
Right.
So today, for example, in Shreveport, our power was out starting at 8 o'clock. I think it came back on around about 3 or 4. There's only one electric company and they have all the lines. Mm-hmm. There's, so it's not like you can go like, you know what, I don't like their service. I'm going to go to another company. You know what I'm saying? So, and that whole concept is called monopoly, hence the game Monopoly. But that is, in essence, for the most part, capitalism. And that is a necessary service in order for us to even be able to be on this call right now, regardless of how much internet capacity that you have, and regardless of how sophisticated your phone is, if you don't have the service of electricity, we wouldn't be able to communicate. So the government helped them set up their system and they make money. Just like the government helped all of the architects who set up the internet to make money. Just like the government helped Zuckerberg set up Facebook, and I'm quite sure the individuals who set up Zoom to make money. And so therein lies the dynamics of how capitalism, actually works. And it's hard for small businesses in many instances to compete, but you have to continuously try to create solid products and services so that you can now generate income for you and your family and your community.
So I think you answered this one already in the beginning, but I want to make sure that I'm clear. So bringing it all together, when you say philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism, you mean what?
So in order to have a mindset as to how you're going to maneuver in life, whether you know this or not, the thing that fuels you or regulates you is a philosophy. And that philosophy is words that have become ideas that you desire to see implemented in real time. So you say, I want to make sure that everybody wears red, black, and green every day. I want to uplift the African freedom flag. So I want everybody to wear red, black, and green every day. This is my philosophy. And I believe that the world will become a better place if they do this, right? And so now I figure out ways of getting people to do this. And within the system that we're in, the way that white folks have gone about doing this is through direct physical combat and oppression. So they take the military and they now squash anybody who is against their philosophy. Now, once they have been squashed, now you bring in the concept, and now everybody else follows. And the concept now becomes capitalism. And within capitalism, capitalism is predicated upon the creation, maintenance, and expansion of a permanent underclass. So you can't have capitalism without having poor people. So now, in order for poor people to not be poor, they would have to learn how the system works, deconstruct it, and now figure out how they can maneuver to help more poor people come up, which is almost impossible because of the various layers that are involved, because you have so many different systems that are connected within the economic and the political system. So all of that works together. The governmental political apparatus works with the private sector apparatus of capitalism, and that works together with the school system. It works together with the church and all of it. I mean, everything is all a part of this very complex system that we're in, and white supremacy regulates it as it relates to how everything maneuvers. So that's why it's very difficult for people who don't really research, study, and have had an opportunity to be behind the scene to really understand. So most people just pretty much say, I'm just gonna go to work and let God handle it because it's too much for me.
That is that's another perfect segue to the next question. Okay, so this one is kind of involved, but I got to ask it because of what you just said. Can you give 2 to 3 concrete examples of how the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism actually works, so that there's no confusion on what you mean by that? Can you give 2 or 3 concrete examples of how this philosophy, system, and game actually works so that everybody is clear?
Okay, so come up with a real good one from a okay, so let me come up with one from a public sector standpoint. So the government encourages people to so-called own homes, right? So if you ask people who are investing in real estate where they live, you say, do you, and they finish paying off their home, you ask them a simple question. At what point will you actually own the home, or at what point does anyone in America actually own a home?
Right.
And they say, I own my home. I finished paying off my mortgage. And I say, are you sure? And they say, yeah, I'm a homeowner. And I say, well, unfortunately, you're not. because in America, no one owns real estate unless you're on a reservation or some type of special consideration, but you don't. And so, of course, they're going to try to argue. And so I just lead them down the capitalistic path and let them see that the government now attaches a value onto your property. And the value onto your property, you have to now pay what on an annual basis?
Taxes.
What do you pay?
Taxes.
What type of tax? Property tax.
Property taxes.
Now, but you paid off your home now.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if you don't pay your property taxes, since you own your home now, what happens when you don't pay off your property tax on an annual basis?
You're gonna lose that home.
Exactly. Now, let's go into the private sector and say you bought a pair of jeans. You bought these jeans, let's say at a good store like Macy's. We don't want you to buy them from Walmart because, you know, you might not want to buy them from Walmart. You want some real nice jeans, you know. So you go buy these jeans from Macy's and you pay sales taxes when you buy them, okay? Now, after 10 years of having those jeans, do you ever have to pay any more taxes on those jeans?
Nope.
Does anybody tell you what to do with those jeans?
Nope.
You can do anything you want to with those jeans, right?
Yep.
And why can you do anything you want to with those jeans?
Because you actually own those jeans.
Exactly. So if you own a home, just like you own jeans, how is it that the government can come and take your home after you say you paid it off? Because you never owned the home. So this is capitalism, how it works as it relates to the public sector and how it relates to the private sector. And so but in order for people to believe that they own a home, you got to have a training system in place, propaganda, a lot that goes into it. And within that home, they sell you on the illusion of equity. So it's like you got to have a home so you can get equity. So now what is equity? They'll tell you this is a financial instrument. So bam, your home is worth $200,000. You no longer owe any money on your home. And so now you have $200,000, right?
Right? In theory.
No, you do not. And why is that, Brother Tamani? Because in order to access the $200,000, what do you have to do?
Get a loan?
Take out a goddamn loan.
Against your property.
Against your own goddamn property.
Right.
I thought you owned the home. And I thought the $200,000 was yours. Equity is an illusion. The only way that you can realize equity is by selling the home. But if you sell, you got to find somewhere to stay.
Right.
And if you take out a loan, you got to pay it back. So this is the intricate system of capitalism. And I just gave that example because people are always talking about real estate. I'm going to buy up the block. I'm going to buy up the block. And they don't understand the complexities they're in. Now, if you understand the game and you are maneuvering in the game and you're going to be an entrepreneur, now you can maneuver and make some things happen. But in general, that's just a whole hustle and people don't understand. But that's capitalism, using the public and the private sector.
And of course, the acquisition of credit, having to go in debt to get more debt is also a part of the game as well. Because if you think about it, it is absolutely ridiculous if you think about it.
That's part of the game. And so people, get your credit up. Get your credit up. Why do they want you to get your credit up? So you can go do what?
Get some debt. Get some debt up.
It's all a game. And you got to realize that if you constantly are in debt, you can never be free.
Right.
So all of the people who are pushing credit, they're actually enemies of the state. And they don't really know it, but they are going with the whole white supremacist agenda of capitalism.
Okay, all right. So give me one more concrete example of how the philosophy, system, and game of white supremacy and racism actually works. One more example.
Another good example, since people love automobiles.
Yep.
So we're gonna manufacture automobiles, we're gonna brand them, and we're gonna make them nice and pretty, and you go spend $70,000 for this car brand new. And right when you drive it off the showroom floor, it depreciates 40%.
Like a brick.
Okay. Now, you got good credit now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tie it all in again. We'll go back to credit because that's a part of the system and game of capitalistic white supremacy. Got great credit. They'll sell you a car and a house. But what won't they give you with an 800 credit score in most instances? A loan for business.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it becomes very difficult to get a loan for business because you can have a great credit score and still not get the loan for business because they don't really have anything to come back and repossess.
Oh.
And even if they did, the whole game about that is they don't want you to now become financially independent. They want you to go into debt. Pseudo home ownership, pseudo car ownership, all of these particular things. And so at the end of the day, the business, which can now appreciate in value versus the car, which depreciates in value, they are willing to loan that money because they can come repossess the vehicle. And from that overall aspect, again, people rock and roll within that dynamic. And similar to a house, you really don't own your car.
You got to explain that one. You got to explain that one.
Easy. Because each vehicle that you have, regardless of the state, has to be registered and certified every year or every other year. Mm-hmm. And if you do not get your car inspected,
your registration,
if it's not registered,
right?
What? Your ass can't move that car.
Right.
And if you move that car, since you believe you own it, the people can come take your car.
Right.
Better yet, if you don't have car insurance and you're stopped in the car that you now paid for, what now happens? Your car gets impounded.
Yeah.
So who actually owns your vehicle? See, your two biggest capital purchases, real estate and your vehicle, the government attaches policies to them, laws, that now allow you to pay for those things, and they attach a tax on an annual basis or biannual basis in regards to a car to those things. And if you don't handle your business, they can come and repossess those things.
So if the American system is a perpetual system of debt and or continuous payments for stuff, what is the solution and our alternative? Since we're here and most of us aren't going anywhere, what should we be doing? What can we do to ensure that we're not constantly always in a position of having to pay for everything?
Well, one of the things that you can do, especially as relates to real estate, you can purchase the home, but become a corporation, especially a nonprofit corporation. Mm-hmm. You can purchase real estate and now not have to pay the same taxes that you would pay if you are an individual. This causes one to have to shift their mindset because America is a corporate system. So you got to learn to play the corporate game. As an individual, you got to learn to play the corporate game. Take your name off of houses and cars and now put them in the name of a trust or some kind of for-profit or non-profit corporation, and now allow that corporation to navigate on your behalf. The goddamn car or the house ain't got to be in your name. You're going to be staying in the house. You're going to be driving the car. So unless you just want to show off, you know, it really makes no sense for you to even have the overall process in your name. But that requires you having to do a lot of study about the Uniform Commercial Code, about trust, about a lot of different things. There are so many different ways that you will be able to maneuver in the present system. In the present system, they just aren't taught to you in the classroom. I don't care what college that you go to, they're not taught to you. So you got to learn these through self-study. And when you get into that particular game, now you can maneuver in this game, although it is structured primarily against you, you can now learn to navigate. But it requires understanding, comprehension, the willingness to research and study, and then you can make some things happen. You can establish corporations here and offshore and navigate within that overall situation. But at the end of the day, it requires you to submit yourself to being able to research and study so you can make some things happen.
Got it. Cool. Okay. If you are joining us late into the show, you're listening to the Revolutionary Code, where we bring you the truth about how governmental politics actually works in every facet of human existence and how that affects our people, Black people here in America. Tonight's show is our 6th episode and is titled The Real Impact of the Philosophy, System, and Game of Capitalistic White Supremacy and Racism on the Lives of African Descendants in America and What Really Matters Most. My name is Tamani Mwandani. I'm the founder of the Black Gold Nation Movement. I am your host, and my co-host is Brother Craig B. Lee, the National Director of the Black Gold Nation's Political Strategy and Implementation Department. Okay, Brother Craig, during episode 4, you finished playing with your camera?
Yeah, well, somebody called. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm back.
All right. Okay. All right. So during episode 4 of the Revolutionary Code, we had a show titled Exposing Pseudo Solutions of the Negro Class and Why Mobilizing and Organizing Black People is the Only Answer. Now, during that show, we discussed what I see as the top 5 pseudo solutions, which means fake or not real, for Black people. And those 5 included separation without the usage of political power, separation by obtaining a certain classification that can be recognized by a larger world court, focusing only on one problem, economics, politics, spirituality, military, whatever, to fix what's destroying the community, reparations, and religiosity. Those are the 5 things that I listed as the most common pseudo solutions that Black people are always pushing for Black people. My next question, are these solutions pseudo? Are they fake? Because the persons promoting them do not fundamentally and concretely understand what we're talking about tonight, which is the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism. They're pushing these solutions because they don't understand how this thing is really played, how it's set up, how it functions, how many layers there are. So they're pushing these things because they're just fundamentally ignorant. That's the question.
It's a combination.
Okay.
It's a combination that they don't understand the complexity of the philosophy, the system, and the game. Most of them don't even understand what it means in terms of the philosophy. And then, you know, you got the system that is not going to change unless it is destroyed. And then within that, there's a game that you play within the system. And so that's a lot of layers, and very few of them would ever be able to understand that, because you have to be multifaceted in terms of your education, your experiences in corporate America. You got to be an entrepreneur. You got to, you know, be connected to the governmental politics system. You got to know how our people work. I mean, it's just a lot. Okay, so that's one aspect, and then their training. You take Umar Johnson. His training was in, I think, sociology, psychology, or something like that. So that's your training, and that's a very important aspect of the game. But the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy is not one-dimensional. It's multidimensional. So you got to know a lot of things before you step out and say, this is a solution, right? And when you don't know that, people follow you down this rabbit hole, and then it's like, why isn't anything changing for us? Because it's not just that one thing. It's not just about a school. It's not just about economics. It's not just about public schooling or public health and wellness. It's all of those. It's not just about agriculture and feeding yourself. You see, it's not just about somebody says, oh, we need to do community centers. It's not just about law enforcement shooting you. It's all of these things, right? So that's where the 6 pillars of empowerment come into play, because you have to address spirituality, you have to address culture, you have to address education, economics, socioeconomics, and politics, all simultaneously, because that's what's going on within the philosophy, system, and game 24/7, 365. So to come up with a one-dimensional approach for a multi-dimensional problem, you know, I mean, you're just wasting time, to be honest with you.
And I would have to say that is why we continue to lose, because we don't fully understand what we're up against, and we don't understand how much of it is against us. Like you said, all those different things. We can't just focus on politics. We can't just focus on spirituality. We can't just focus on economics. We got to focus on all that stuff at the same time. Because if we don't, wherever you are not focusing, all that other stuff, you focus on one thing. All that other stuff is how you're going to lose. and we continually miss that point.
And look, I was at city council meeting here in Shreveport a few years ago. And this white boy, he comes up to me, he says, see, Craig, see, you just don't understand. See, it's no longer about racism. It's about classism. So you don't get it. And I just bust out laughing. And he said, why are you laughing? I say, you just showed your white supremacy right there. Trying to tell me that I don't understand. That is the cracker that is in you. And you're supposed to be a good, nice cracker. But that's the cracker that is in you. You're white supremacist right there. I say, for you, it is classism. For me, it is not only racism, but it's classism, it's sexism, it is ageism, it is any goddamn ism and schism, because they hit you across the board. And that's why so many melanated sisters are getting caught up in the game on feminism, because they see themselves being oppressed. hell yeah, you're being oppressed. But you're being oppressed first and foremost because of your ethnicity, not because of your gender. But you are being oppressed because of your gender as well. But if you get caught up trying to roll with white females on feminism, you are going to lose and our people are going to lose because they use all of it against us simultaneously. You cannot be one-dimensional in this game, period. That's just the bottom line. And it's unfortunate that our people just, and I get it because you're not trained to know these things. You're not trained to understand that these things exist. And so we just go off on all these different tangents and we never understand we got to do all of these things simultaneously working under one umbrella. Working under one umbrella. So now when you put the agenda together, our overall agenda addresses what? Gender discrimination of females.
Yep.
There ain't no way in the hell a woman should make less than a goddamn male or man doing the same goddamn job.
That's right.
That's basic.
That's right.
Period.
Right.
But you don't have to start a damn female group to address that goddamn issue. You can do that under the same group.
Right.
But boom, this is our gender component to our demands. Then you have a youth component. Then you have an elderly. All of that has to be addressed simultaneously, not independently by 55 different goddamn organizations.
And we miss that the underlying goal of every single thing we do as we address the feminism, as we address the youth piece, as we address the agricultural piece, everything has to be about the liberation and salvation of Black people. Everything.
Automatic.
So if what you are not doing, I don't give a damn what it is. If it is not attached to a movement to build power for Black people, then you wasting time we don't have, and you on the wrong path. And a lot of times, as we discussed, I think it may have been the first episode, we get caught up in doing good things and not understanding that if that good thing you're trying to do doesn't create policy that's going to fundamentally change what happens to your day-to-day life, then at the end of the day, as you said before, you're going to get choked out because you don't have the power to stop it. And that's what we constantly miss. This thing is ultimately about being able to control, your own space. Okay, so our education and our training is inadequate. That's obvious because everything you just said, we don't get that. We don't get that from school. We don't get that from college. We don't get that from the military. You don't get that education and understanding because they don't want you to get it. They don't want you to know.
And that's done on purpose.
That's by design.
Because capitalism is predicated on what? The creation, maintenance, and expansion of a permanent underclass.
Right. Somebody has to be exploited.
Somebody got to be exploited.
Right.
So look, let me show you something. I asked this one white guy who was on our school board. He found out that I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, and he still is. That's my former life. And he said, man, I see that you were a pharmaceutical rep too. I said, yeah. And he said, man, it's a great job. I said, yeah. So I asked him, I said, how did you get your job? And so he was like, through hard work and, my education and, and I started laughing. So we were downtown Shreveport, right across from the courthouse at my partner Rod Phillips' restaurant, where we used to have our Tuesday morning breakfast. And I pointed out the window to some homeless people. And I said, that's how you got your job. And look, he said, what the hell do homeless people have to do with me getting a job? And I say, now you're about to go onto the school board and you just proved to me that you don't understand capitalism.
Sure.
I said, because look, man, it's like this. When I was a pharmaceutical rep in the mid 90s, to money, I was one of only about 300 Black pharmaceutical sales reps, hospital reps in the entire world for all pharmaceutical companies.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, out of 130 people that year, I was the only Black person they hired out of the entire city of Atlanta. But throughout the entire country, they had 130 people. Now in Atlanta, brother, it's about 1,000 people that turned out for the job.
Sure.
But they were only hiring one Black person. So how many people didn't get the goddamn job, man?
999.
Okay. Now, in economics, there's a concept called scarcity of resources, meaning there is not an infinite amount of resources that exist. So it's the same in procuring a goddamn job. So if there are only 10 jobs that are gonna be filled and 1,000 people apply for the job, 990 are not gonna get the goddamn job.
That's right.
I don't give a damn what kind of hard work, ethics, and talent you got. Now, of the 10 that gets the job, most of them are gonna have to know and be top of the line. But now what comes into play? Who you know, what fraternity you're connected with.
Right.
There's a lot of the politics that go into that.
Yeah.
So I was explaining to the white guy, because they are on the street, it's how you got the job.
Right.
Because now you have to create the illusion that there are enormous opportunities in America, when in all actuality it's not true. You just make people fall by the wayside and give up.
Right.
If you really wanted to see how diabolical capitalism was, just imagine if everybody, look, I asked my, the person who used to be the superintendent of schools here in Shreveport. He gave me my diploma in 1985. And I asked him, I said, Superintendent Lee, when you were superintendent, I said, you gave me my diploma. He said, yeah. I said, well, I got a question for you. I said, how does a person become a sanitation worker? And so he said, well, you know, you go and fill out the application. And I said, no, you're not understanding. I said, let me break it down. No child in elementary, junior high, high school
Right.
says, when I grow up, I want to be a goddamn sanitation worker.
That's right.
And this ain't nothing against sanitation workers.
Sure. Yeah.
I want you to understand where I'm going with this.
Come on.
Nobody in goddamn kindergarten says, when Miss Jackson say, what you want to be when you grow up, to money? I want to work on a sanitation truck. Don't nobody say that in history. So how does a person get to be a sanitation worker? He didn't know how to answer the question. I said, Superintendent Lee, they have to be trained to devalue education at an early age. Because guess what? Sanitation workers is a very important job.
Yep.
But we got to demean the job in order for people to fall through the cracks. And when they fall through the cracks, maybe you go to jail or whatever. Now you're willing to take that job paying you $8, $10 an hour for back-breaking work.
Yeah.
But so you got to devalue the person early in the game in order to fill those jobs. Same with being a dishwasher. Same with working at the stinky water treatment plant. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
But even with them, those jobs, to money, there are only a few of those.
Yep.
You see, that's scarcity of resources. That's the game of capitalism.
Right.
And we got to understand it.
So since we know, obviously, that our education and training is inadequate by design, is it possible that we Black people can change and or affect that without a complete separation from this system?
Hell yeah.
How?
Based on the game plan that we're creating to take over majority Black cities and counties, as you bring in an economic and political agenda to take over those particular infrastructures. And now, not 50%, not 80%, not 90%, but just going after 20% of our annual disposable income for African Americans. Just going, that's the goal, and just achieving 50% of the goal, 10%. Achieving 10% of that goal yields over $145 billion a year throughout Black America. That eliminates all issues that we have in those key cities that we take over. And so you don't have to separate, segregate, or try to go to Africa or go to the damn moon to try to escape these white folks, because you're not going to escape them.
Yep.
Period. It's not going to happen. So you have to deal with this bully, but you have to deal with him wisely. And so if once you take over your landmass and you unite with other entities who are part of the landmass system, and you all leverage that goal, target that goal to 20% and achieve a 50% success rate, you now have 145 billion throughout those particular cities and counties. And trust me, at that point, people will be flocking to those cities from throughout the world. That's because right. Opportunities will be in abundance, and you would have created various Wakandas here in the United States.
Excellent. Sunday, in our leadership meeting, in our ambassador meeting, we played 2 video clips. One was Brother Malcolm in 1963 talking about liberals, conservatives, and the grassroots. That was the first video clip. The second one was you talking about the usage of economic power to control your political space. Can you give a brief overview of what Malcolm was saying, and then give your synopsis as it relates to what we're doing in 2020?
The bottom line is both political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, and this is what Malcolm was saying over 56 years ago. This is what I came out of corporate America and started working on 25 years ago. Both political parties are pimping our people. Mm-hmm. Both political parties have a liberal apparatus inside of them and a conservative apparatus inside of them. They're gonna always pimp. So the only solution is to establish an independent political party where you mobilize and organize like-minded Black folks, and now you establish your own political party. So let's just say out of the 50 million African descendants in America, we established a political party where we got 20 million people, and this is an independent party. We call it PAID. That's a great name because I created that.
That's right.
The Political Advocates for Independent Democracy. So now we come under the PAID umbrella, 20 million people. So now, to money, if 20 million people put up just $50 once a year, how much money is that?
50 million, 20, I don't know.
That's $1 billion.
There you go, that's my next answer.
All right, now, you got $1 billion a year now that is going into a political coffer. And now you harness all of this intellectual capital and you put together what Ice Cube is attempting to do, an agenda for Black folks that he's calling the contract with Black America. And I give Ice Cube credit. It's cool. The plan is not, all that it needs to be, but it's a good effort. Mm. But you put that up, okay? And you got 20 million people standing behind. And now, mind you, these 20 million people also are in control of various cities and counties.
That's right.
These 20 million people also are representing $145 billion a year. They got millionaires and billionaires among their ranks. Now you put together your agenda. And now you interview each party, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
Right.
Since they're going to play the two-party game, no problem. Here's our agenda. We're interviewing you. Whichever one of you is willing to roll with our agenda and negotiate, not for no goddamn one-eyed people, not for the goddamn Hindus, not for the Sikhs, not for anybody but us.
Right.
Whoever, I don't give a damn if you're Republican or Democrat, whoever is willing to negotiate for us, that's who gets our votes, and that's who gets the goddamn money. And we signed the contract, and guess what we're already in control of in order to execute those particular deals from the federal level? What would we already be in control of? The land masses, the cities, and the
local
county.
politics. That's right.
Because it's all local.
Right.
But now you got to mobilize it in order to tie it in and now hold them. You negotiate the deal before the vote, not after the goddamn vote.
Right.
Because I'm hearing these crazy fools talking about, oh, we're going to get her, we're going to get Biden and Harris elected, then we're going to hold them accountable. That ain't how that works. Hold them accountable for what? You ain't got an agenda. So that's what Malcolm was saying. We have to put our own independent political party together. He just didn't have the economic component and an understanding of how to control the various cities and the counties. That's the part that I brought in over 25 years ago.
And it's most certainly the missing piece that all of our speakers and leaders and organizations missed out on. That local politics is absolutely everything. Okay, last two questions. Tonight's show, the title is The Real Impact of the Philosophy, System, and Game of Capitalistic White Supremacy and Racism on the Lives of African Descendants in America, and what really matters most. My question, what is the real impact of the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism? What is the real impact, and what really matters most?
The real impact is the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy is, as the architect of the Matrix told Neo, it is everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it controls your words, it controls your clothes, your water, your damn toilet paper, your Q-tips, your damn typewriter, your computer, your lawnmower, your gas. It controls your church, your money. It controls all. It controls your mind. Many instances, it controls whether or not you can breathe. Okay, so the real impact is pervasive. It is epic. It is all encompassing, and the only way to free yourself from that is through the acquisition of your intrinsic power, which is spirituality. You need that to detoxify your mind in order to detach yourself from that, in order to free yourself while still being inside of the matrix. That was the whole concept of Morpheus leading Neo out of the matrix into Zion. You see, they were still in the matrix,
yeah,
but they were going back and forth in different portals of it overall.
If I didn't know any better, brother, I would think you saw my notes, because this is the third time you gave me a perfect segue to the next question. And this wasn't a question that I already had written down. I just added it because of what you were saying. So, is the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism, is that the matrix?
Yes, it is. It is the matrix, and that's how cold-blooded. That's how cold-blooded they are. They can show you the truth through a movie, and you believe it's just entertainment. And
diabolical. Diabolical.
That's how gangster they are, because they know you wouldn't figure it out. They can put things right in front of you symbolically, and you'll never figure it out. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you would never figure it out at all. There's an article that I had of a frieze, an artistic frieze that was in the rotunda in Congress, right? No, it was in the rotunda of the United States Supreme Court, and the frieze had none other than Prophet Muhammad on it with a sword. So now think about this. I did this workshop and I said, why would Prophet Muhammad, a Muslim, be on a frieze in the United States Supreme Court rotunda, in the halls of the United States Supreme Court? Because all of them are Muslim. You say, what? Okay. They're Christians. They're all 33rd degree Masons.
That's right, and that's
and at the 33rd degree in Masonry, they have to start practicing what? Islam.
Yes, sir.
See, this thing is set up as a game on a level that is just too complex. Yeah. I mean, it's too complex, man. And so they can hide things right in front of us, and most of us would never even have a clue. And because the thoughts have been completely drained out of us, you know, there's no interest or desire to figuring out how to free yourself.
And sadly, a lot of us have given up, and we are like, shoot, what's the white boy's name in the Matrix, the one that sold out? What's his name?
Oh, that's Cypher.
Yeah, a lot of us are like Cypher in that we don't want to know, we don't want to remember, we want to have a good job because we don't want to know what's really going on in the real world, and that pretty much sums up a lot of our people. We don't want to know, you know.
And why did Cypher want to sell out? Because he was what? He said he got tired of struggling.
Yeah, individualistic, I guess.
Exactly. He got tired of struggling.
Okay, so what really matters most is that spirituality, is that controlling our own space, is that the obtaining of political power. What really matters most as it relates to the philosophy system game of capitalistic white supremacy?
What the hell have I been teaching you all along? It all matters. There is no matters most.
Okay.
The number one thing that you have to have in order to make it all work is spirituality. Right. You're not going to make it all work without spirituality, because spirituality is your power cord connector to the creator.
That's right.
Okay. That period. That's your power cord. It ain't got nothing to do with religiosity. That's your internal power cord connector to the creator.
Sure.
And then that now unleashes this wonderful intelligence that now will connect you to understanding why you got to have power, why you got to be able to define your destiny, why you got to be able to do these things for your people. But without spirituality, it ain't gonna happen. So that's the most important element or pillar of the 6 pillars of empowerment, hence why it's ranked number 1, but it's all connected. Just like you have 4 tires, okay? You have 4 tires.
Yeah.
All 4 of them are important. Remove one of them, your goddamn car still can't go nowhere. Okay? All 4 of them are necessary. You have individual spokes on a bicycle tire, but they all work in unison to hold up the frame for that tire. It's the same with us. Same with a chair, same with anything else. So it's not that, you know, we choose one or the other. All of them are important, but spirituality, everything starts with spirituality.
Okay, brother, it is 10:05. We've reached the end of the show. We do have a few people who've joined us to be a part. So before we close this thing out, I want to ask anyone, does anybody have a question that they want to ask Brother Craig per what we've been discussing tonight. Anybody at all have a question that they want to ask Brother Quake? Anybody? Anybody going once? Okay, Dr. D, go ahead.
I have a question for you, Brother Craig. You were talking about some of the things like, I think UCC1 codes and business entities for the trusts, and that's a part of the, what is it called? Irreversible trust. Is that the same thing in business corporation as, you know, some of the stuff? Is that some of the stuff we're going to be bringing to the table and educating our people on? I mean, I know some of the stuff, but I'm not there. I'm trying to get there.
And Dr. D, Dr. D, that's a good question, because and that goes back to the question about, is it necessary to separate? See, these things already exist inside of the system if you know how to access them, right?
Right.
So you can be just like the Amish and acquire your own land and establish your own structure inside of the structure. You see? But it's all about mobilizing, organizing like-minded people to be able to rock and roll and do that. And we start doing that within the cities that we already have the numbers. And then within that, we learn how to, now if we want to just create a completely separate, our own Wakanda, where we buy up, let's say, like my uncle did, bought up 1,000 acres in the late 1800s and started Morristown. You can actually do that, but you got to learn how water and sewer system work, how sanitation works. How you have to learn these things, right? So within the corporate structure, which all the white folks have done, is learn how we set up businesses in Africa. This, like when people talk about the hatred of the Caucasian, is amazing, because all they've done, from their university systems to their religious system, everything they've done is copied off of us.
Right.
And so now, in order for us to get out of our oppression, you got to learn what already exists within their structure so that we can now help our people. But the answer to your question is, yeah, we'll be learning those particular things, because we got to corporatize ourselves individually and collectively in order to get out of this situation.
All right, so does anyone else have a question for Brother Craig about anything that we discussed tonight? Anybody else have a question? Anybody else going once? Anybody else going twice? I don't think I see anybody hands up. Okay, with that, Brother Craig, you wanna, you got that, Sister Papa, was that goodbye? Is that got a question? Okay. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, Brother Craig, you wanna give us a closing remarks before we shut the thing down?
You know, I'll just say this. Tomorrow is the 15th anniversary of the worst natural and man-made disaster in American history. And I was a part of that with my first wife, and that's Hurricane Katrina. And we have been positioned in this game. We have not earned any rights on our own. So we don't have a right to be tired. We don't have a right to get weary, because we're able to do things. Yeah, we gotta go through a lot of difficult things in terms of getting people's mind right. But I prefer that over the debt that our people paid, working in the hot ass sun, barefooted, hot ass water, no air conditioner, you know, none of the comforts that they position us to achieve. And I just encourage everybody to elevate themselves with the 6 pillars of empowerment. Again, starting with spirituality, and embracing right culture so that we can start to repay the debt that our ancestors have just selflessly positioned for us and presented for us to be in this country and this world. And I'm thankful to be a part of the Black Gold movement and what we're trying to do and what we are going to do to make this world a better place.
And I shake. All right, so thank you, Brother Craig, again for another fantastic show. I encourage all of you guys to share the information about the show. Every Black person on the planet needs to be connected to the show because what we are discussing, what Brother Craig is laying out, we are not going to get anywhere else. A lot of the solutions many of our people are pushing simply are not going to work because they are unrealistic. They are not completely thought out. They are fabricated. They're hopes, dreams, and prayers. We're talking about not asking anybody to do anything for us. We're not talking about getting anybody to give us something that we're owed. Everything that we're talking about doing, our people have the ability to do. Once we start doing what we have the ability to do, then everything that we want, everything that we're owed, we can take. But it's like Brother Craig was saying, you have to understand the philosophy, the system, and the game if you're going to be able to take anything. And then once you take it, because you Black, you got to protect it because they're going to come for it.
Exactly.
So you absolutely must understand your enemy. You must understand what you're up against. And you absolutely must understand how the system and the game is played based on how they think.
That's right.
If you don't get that, you're going to lose every single day of the week, every single time. So we thank you guys for being here. We want you to share the show, what we're doing, how we're going about doing it, and we want you to join us this Saturday. Every other Saturday, we have a Black Gold movie review where we critique movies and documentaries as it relates to what it means to be Black in America and what we're up against. And again, as I said initially, every single thing we do is about putting our people in a position to win because we understand that we don't have time to waste time doing anything else. So everything we do is about bringing our people together so that we can find the right Black people so that we can move forward and do. So if you're not busy, this coming Saturday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 if you're on the West Coast, Dr. D. We're reviewing the documentary 13th. Absolutely phenomenal documentary that Sister, what's her name, Michelle, what's her name?
Alexander.
Michelle Alexander did about the 13th Amendment and what it has meant and what it still means for Black people as it relates to incarceration. So if you're not busy, please join us for that. And please keep the family of Brother Jacob Blake in your prayers because Lord have mercy, the brother was shot in the back 7 times and now he's paralyzed for life. And also keeping your prayers of families that were affected by Hurricane Laura as well. So with that, always, always, always remember 2 things. No one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. And absolutely, always, always, always remember that nothing is more sacred. Not me, not you, not your kids, not my kids, not your family, not my family. Nothing is more sacred than the liberation and salvation of Black people, because if Black people don't make it, then everybody who looks like us ain't gonna make it. But if we take care of the group and put the group first and build a nation within a nation, then everybody that's connected will be taken care of and all of us will be all right. So with that, again, thank you guys very much for being a part. I appreciate it. And I will see you in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, see you next Thursday for the next show of the Revolutionary Code. You guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
All right.